Hi, my name is Paige Farrell, and I am doing a meeting presentation on what the expectations are for proper meeting etiquette in person and online, especially during a pandemic. As we all know, things have changed dramatically for everybody in personal life and in the working environment. The corporate world has definitely changed, and how we function and do things daily has become different. And part of that is online meetings. We obviously in the working world can't usually function without having a daily meeting, it seems like. So we had to come up with better options, and one of those was to have online meetings, and the increase of that has shown dramatically in the statistics. Anyways, let's start getting into this. So this presentation is meeting etiquette during a pandemic, and some of the statistics that I have found with how much video conferencing has increased just within the past year is truly phenomenal in how things have changed. So according to Ola Smoot's online article, 50 video conferencing statistics for the year 2020, we have quite a bit of increase in the usage of online meeting software. So we have 20% of companies allow remote working, with 16% of them being fully remote now. We have 43% of remote and in-house teams using video calls. We have also 83% of businesses with over 250 employees have now switched to video conferencing. And they have also purchased the software for the video conferencing. Zoom stated that last year alone it had over 300 million Zoom meetings participants per day just in 2020. And Microsoft Teams also reported that it had 75 million active users daily last year alone, which would also be including me. I know my company uses that daily, and that was part of our expectation, was to be available online during working hours with Microsoft Teams. So that was a big one. 55% of businesses say video conferencing effectively increased participation in meetings, which you would think, how would that be possible? You have so many distractions, but a lot of companies actually reported it as a positive instead of a negative. So we have that. And then studies show that 77% of attendees join video meetings on laptops or desktops. We have 31% on mobile phones and 13% on tablets. So our next one is our learning objective. So the learning objective for this course is I want people to walk away with the knowledge of why meeting etiquette is so important, and online, in person, and how it will effectively impact your overall meeting experience when done correctly. Why is proper meeting etiquette for in-person meetings so important? Proper meeting etiquette is important because it improves communication, increases productivity, and improves relationships. So, according to the Indeed.com's article for February 22nd of 2021, 11 meeting tips for good meeting etiquette, and this is in person. Be punctual, come prepared, dress appropriately, be prepared to listen and engage in the meeting, eat and drink when appropriate, take turns speaking, make sure you follow the agenda. I think that's a given with almost every meeting. I can't tell you how many times I've been in meetings and it just gets sidetracked and goes in a completely different direction. Put away technology, be attentive, pay attention to your body language. All of these are great tips, very important for any meeting that you're going to have. So why is proper meeting etiquette for online meetings so important? Well, I think that's a given right now, again, with how important and how predominant online meetings has become. We need to make sure that you're being actively engaged in the meeting and not being distracted. I've actually participated in Zoom or Teams meetings where I've seen, a person changing their baby's diaper. So, again, all of this is, it's so important to know what the proper meeting etiquette is so that all of your participants feel engaged and that you get the most out of this meeting. So, ensuring that you know what proper online meeting etiquette is will allow for you to be present in any meeting, and your appearance on screens remains consistent. So obviously we want to make sure that, again, you're not being distracted, you don't have all these things going on in the background, you're paying attention, and you can walk away with the knowledge of what that meeting was for, So we have 8 tips for good online meeting etiquette, and this is according to, and apologize, I'm going to say this person's name wrong, but it's Nikia Kolthresh's May 8th, 2020 article by Blogs Fireflies online meeting article. Again, this is 8 tips for good online meeting etiquette. So join early. Again, you're still going to want to dress appropriately for this meeting. You don't want to show up in your pajamas, which I've also seen happen. Mute your microphone when you're not talking so that people aren't getting that background noise. Stay seated, stay present, minimize distractions, give grace, plan for effective wrap-up, and again, joining early, you're going to want to do that so that you can allow for any technical difficulties you might have. I know during interviewing with potential candidates at my company, we've had a lot of issues with candidates showing up late, saying that they were having technical issues. And of course, you never want to show up to an interview late. So that was one of our bigger issues that I've noticed and experienced with the online meetings. So meeting etiquette during a pandemic. So what etiquette has changed for in-person meetings? Well, the biggest one, obviously, or I guess the biggest 3 that have changed for online meeting or in-person meetings is no more handshakes. So obviously in America, our go-to for proper introductions for people is going in for a handshake. We obviously, CDC is not recommending we do that anymore, so we're going to want to, at my company, we call it elbow bumping. We usually do that, or sometimes we'll fist bump now, but again, that's not as recommended. But the elbow bumping allows for still trying to show that gratitude towards people and friendliness, but without the chance of spreading germs, right? So another one we're going to focus on is face masks. We're obviously still facing this challenge in the world. We're trying to reduce the spread of germs. So most companies, even though face mask mandates have been lifted, most companies are still requiring them, and that's again up to the discretion of any company. And then another huge change has gone from the size of in-person meetings now. So now that companies are starting to get more people back in the doors, some companies are used to having town halls, is what we call ours, with large all-employee meetings. Obviously, those aren't happening anymore, and we're trying to cut back to 6 to 10 people in person. And during that time, we're still staying 6 feet apart, so every other chair usually, with small groups, and then any larger groups we're going to try and video conference them in. So again, we're still probably using video conferencing even though we have people in the room as well. So this is just, video conferencing is just a new norm, right? So now we have meeting etiquette during the pandemic and how the pandemic has changed meeting expectations for our future. We have the pandemic this is also by Courtney Connolly in her April 20th CNBC online article with 13 ways the pandemic could potentially change our future way we work. So we have from her stating that the pandemic has become a technological equalizer of sorts, where people previously unaccustomed to using tech tools in the workplace had no choice but to adapt. So again, we still have a lot of boomer generations in our workforce, or at least in my company, we do, and a lot of them were very against this technology, and to this day they were actually still going into the office as opposed to working remotely because they just didn't want to handle this. But it has forced a lot of people's hands to join in and learn the technology with everybody. More meetings have become emails, so people trying to figure out, okay, how can we cut back on the risk of exposure? Can this be an email instead of a meeting? So we've seen a lot more emails. Meetings and phone calls that would once have taken place in person have become video calls. A better bond can be created between you and your coworker and team members, because you're actually letting people into your home. So think about it. A lot of people are working remotely. You're now having your video conferences, and people can see your home environment, as you can tell. And sometimes you get your kids running into the background, or sometimes you have your dogs barking when there's somebody outside. So all of this has given us kind of a grace and patience period within our coworkers, and so you're really becoming a bigger part of their personal life. And in-person meetings can all but become obsolete as companies start to realize the cost effectiveness of not having an elaborate conference room, or even a building in general. I know quite a few companies are actually trying to sublease their office space, which is actually very difficult right now because nobody is wanting office space. And so, with that, the real estate market is for companies has become so overwhelmed with trying to sublease and nobody wanting to do that, because everybody's realizing that the cost effectiveness of just having your employees work from home is so great. And again, it also benefits the employees because it allows for a flex schedule and more time work-life balance, right? So again, kind of a silver lining for a pandemic. So working from home is going to be the new normal. So most employees were expected to be at their desks Monday through Friday during the, pre-pandemic. Now most people are remote, and when asked if they wanted to return to the office, they all replied no. Big surprise, right? Companies were first to trust both technology and employees to work from home and accomplish all required tasks with less supervision and more distractions. So this put a lot of trust from companies into their employees. So now employees are starting to feel, okay, let me prove to you that I am capable of working from home. You can trust me. I'm going to still accomplish all my tasks that I need to get done, which I think people kind of had to take a step back and figure out how to do that. But now that we're all kind of experienced in that, we're starting to figure it all out. Companies are now able to see that both remote work employees are trustworthy, and that it is possible and profitable for them. So the pandemic has taught everyone the importance of flexibility and trusting everyone, and that the one-size-fits-all corporations are not necessarily a one-size-fits-all anymore. And this all comes from, this comes from the Jeannie Lindbergh, or Lindbergh, in her October 23rd, 2020 section of the BBC online article, the coronavirus and how it's going to affect the world. The benefits of having proper etiquette during a meeting. It establishes meeting etiquette, especially in a virtual environment, as vital. It is vital when wanting to have a productive meeting. Establishing proper etiquette, you should establish rules and remind the attendees of the guidelines for this meeting. Muting their microphones will eliminate that background noise when they're not speaking, so that not everybody else is hearing your dog or screaming child in the background. Make sure for everyone to reduce or stop multitasking during a video conference. Again, that is so important because so many people think, oh, let me shoot this email off real quick while this person's talking. It's not my turn to speak. Well, then you usually miss your cue when it is your turn to speak, or you're just not getting all the information that you should be getting, right? So that's important. Plan to have a backup should your technology fail. That's also important because I mean, how many times have we relied on technology and things happen, right? You know, it just is, it is part of the world. Be preemptive about the common 2 to 3 second video delay. Ask participants to move at a slightly slower pace and make sure they're using pauses after speaking. This will allow for people to ask questions as necessary, or make sure that they get in the time to ask questions without interrupting you. So make sure that you're giving that a little bit of a delay in between your talking points, so that everybody has a chance to speak or get in any questions that they might have. And then, of course, I didn't want to leave anybody from this training session without having something to take away. So I printed out everybody an online meeting etiquette guide and just some quick tips on everything we've reviewed. So it's got join early, dress appropriately, be aware of your surroundings, mute your microphone, stay seated, minimize distractions, give grace, and plan for an effective wrap up. So I want to make sure that everybody can take this little section home and or a little printout home and put it in their desk or wherever might be easy access for you, just as a quick reminder of what expectations are during an online meeting. And then, of course, here's my Works Cited page. And I hope everybody found this somewhat educational and took away something out of this training session. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.